The title of this session is Establishing Mental Fitness in Education, How to Give Your Students and Staff the Mindset to Flourish this year. My name's Tom Rogerson. I'm Innovation Officer at NCFE. I'm joined by Dr. Fran Longstaff, Head of Psychology at Fika.
Hi.
Brilliant, thank you. So just to give you a quick overview of the session, I'll talk a bit more around the partnership and what we've done together with Fika. Fran and I will have a bit of a question and answer session around mental fitness and education. We'll give you a good overview of the Fika app, and then I'll go over the benefits for the FE sector at the moment. So if I just do a quick introduction to Fran Longstaff. Fran, would you mind just giving us a bit of an introduction to your background and your role at Fika?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Head of Psychology at Fika, which is a mental fitness platform. We've been working in education for 3 years. So we work with FE colleges and universities. Pre-Fika, I worked in higher education as a lecturer for about 13 years. I'm still a point one in a university and supervising a PhD student who is researching the effectiveness of Fika and also this concept of mental fitness. And my specialism is sport and exercise psychology. So I've worked in high performance environments over quite a few years. And I'm really trying to bring some of that knowledge and understanding through to education and everybody, really.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Dr. Fran. So just a quick overview. NCFE has joined Fika in essentially mainstreaming mental fitness in our education system. And we went out with a survey to about 2,000 Brits to ask them what their thoughts on mental fitness were. And around 80% of them said they'd wish that skills like confidence and stress management had been taught to them in the same way that maths and English is taught to them. So there's a massive gap here within our education system around mental fitness, treating and boosting self-esteem, both for students and staff, which at the minute seems to be lacking. And I think, especially right now, we have a Mental Health Awareness Week coming up, and we're still in the middle of it. And this is a practical way that we felt, in partnership with Fika, we can deliver this to the FE education system. So, Fran, if I run through some questions for you that we usually get around mental fitness and what we can do in our education system, I think that'd be a good starting point.
Sure.
Brilliant. So one of the terms that we use quite a lot is mental fitness. Why is it important, do you think, to change the language around mental health?
Yeah, so we were very conscious at the beginning of Fika that we really identified that there was a gap in many people's proactive behaviours associated with their mental health. So often when we think of the words mental health, culturally, a lot of us default very quickly to words like anxiety and depression, illness, essentially. Now, what we've noticed is that this strong association with mental health to illness meant that a lot of people really don't think about doing anything about their mental health, really, until a problem emerges. You know, we see this culturally at an individual level, but also institutional levels. So I've spent lots of years in education and know that a lot of the budget would often go to reactive mental health services. And we really started to sort of look at the landscape of mental health and realise that there was a huge gap when we look at the positive end of the mental health spectrum. So, you know, upskilling people in the skills that really enable them to flourish. So to help, I guess, change people's attitudes and behaviours to mental health, we wanted to introduce this term mental fitness, which is really analogous with physical fitness. So we know societally that we should train proactively for the type of physical life that we want to lead. So if I turned around to everybody in this call and said, I'm going to run a marathon next week and not do any training, that would probably be met with ridicule. But when it comes to our mental health, we just don't have that that mindset necessarily to prepare ourselves proactively for the type of mental challenges that we might face. So we talk about mental fitness as a way to educate and encourage people to build the resources, skills, mental muscles, if you like, that will enable them to be the best version of themselves, enable them to cope with challenges and enable them to reach their goals. So that change in language is really important, because that association for so long with mental health and illness has really influenced behaviour, and that's the thing that we want to change, more proactive behaviour in terms of mental health.
That's brilliant, thank you. In terms of that change in behaviour, what's the evidence base around supporting mental fitness?
Yeah, so we've done about 3 years of primary and secondary research. Just a couple of Septembers ago, we ran our first randomised control trial with colleagues at the University of Lincoln, and we were working with their first year university students. And we got these students to do just 3 5-minute mental fitness exercises for a period of 6 weeks. And what we found in that first semester was, after that period of 6 weeks, we saw significant improvements in self-confidence, positive emotion, life satisfaction, and significant reductions in negative emotion compared to an active control group. Now, this was a really important study for us, because those outcomes, like life satisfaction, self-confidence, they are predictive of whether a student is likely to drop out of their studies, how well they're likely to perform in their studies, and also their employability prospects afterwards. So we've got a lot of evidence, both from randomised control trials and also the data that we track through our app, that doing even just 2 weeks mental fitness courses that are always just 5-minute blocks of exercises can lead to 10% uplifts in mental fitness. And I think probably the big evidence base that we draw on, the secondary evidence base that we draw on, is that we know that the strongest predictor of mental health in the long term is mental health literacy. So mental fitness is an educational approach. That's how we build it. So we teach people the skills and the tools to help them flourish, knowing that once they have that knowledge, they'll be able to use it.
That's brilliant, thank you. And I think one question that'll be really in the minds of our audience at the moment is around what can tutors do to support the rollout of mental fitness in their colleges as well as with their students.
Yeah, I think what we talk about really with mental fitness is that we don't want this just to be a resource for the learner. So it starts with the tutors, you know, so we have mental fitness courses for tutors working in colleges as well, knowing that if the mental fitness of tutors is improved, that kind of cascades down into the learners as well. What we've also done to, I guess, make it easy to roll out this mental fitness solution, I guess, is we've created a curriculum. So we have our 7 skills of mental fitness curriculum that contains 3 modules each. And this full curriculum we've mapped to Ofsted criteria, so personal development and behaviour and attitudes. So knowing that a lot of tutors will run through the personal tutoring system, you know, this personal development and behaviour and attitudes curriculum, we've now got a mental fitness curriculum that can plug into there as well. Yeah,
that's brilliant. Thank you. And just another question that's come to my head around, I think a lot of people will think around mental fitness as being something that sits outside of their remit. But from what I've seen, and perhaps you can add a bit more to this, it's quite complementary to the welfare provision or skills development provision that a lot of colleges will have on offer as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways that it can be embedded, and we do encourage. This isn't, mental fitness shouldn't really be a self-serve thing. This is an embedded approach, you know, for everybody. So running it through personal tutoring systems, we've had lots of careers and employability faculties as well using this as a resource to, you know, equip their learners for those interviews that they're going out to have for either future study or workplace. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Just to remind the audience, if you've got any questions at all, please feel free to put them in the chat box. And at the end, we'll have some time for a bit of a Q&A session as well. I think it would be a good opportunity now to have a bit of a demo of the app, Fran, if you're able to, get the technology to work.
Yeah, I know, this is where the fear always starts. Okay, I think you have to stop sharing, Tom, and then I can. Perfect. Okay.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah, you got that there. I'm just going to make this nice, and this is where you all get a snapshot into my app. This could be a bit embarrassing, can't it, sometimes? So this is the Fika app, and this is where we house our mental fitness education, essentially. So I'm going to start with the courses. So as I said before, mental fitness is all about building those mental muscles proactively so that you're better prepared for life's challenges, you can reach your goals. And based on lots of research, we've identified the 7 skills of mental fitness. So working on this principle that if we build these 7 skills, we will be much better able to flourish. So stress management is one, focus, connection, positivity, confidence, motivation, and meaning. So each of these courses has 3 modules that learners can work through. And you'll see here as well that there's an intro to each course. And then once a learner has completed a course, they can then access their certificate. So because we are encouraging an education around this space, we want people to be proactive, and we also want people to celebrate mental fitness, you know, like they celebrate physical fitness. We award certificates which are endorsed by NCFE. So I'll show those shortly. But just to start with the stress course, we did a lot of user testing with learners. So a couple of summers ago, 2 or 3 days a week, we actually had groups of learners in our office co-creating the Fika app with us. And one of the key things that we learned during this process was that any exercises that we put on offer had to be really short, because learners aren't time rich. You know, a lot of us aren't time rich. So we work to a 5-minute exercise format. And you'll see here that the modules in each course are progressive. So in the case of stress, we start with calming techniques, because if, you know, somebody's really stressed, they're making really frantic decisions. We equip them with the skills to kind of lower that by looking at making some place for your peaceful place, breathing techniques. And then we move it on to more practical techniques and eventually changing your mindset. So each module has a little bit of an intro to the module, and then it comprises of 5 exercises that are relevant to that particular topic. At the bottom of each module, there's a little course refresher, which are just, you know, little sound bites to remind the learner the things that they've covered. And then there's always a knowledge check as well at the end of each module, just so a learner can start to grasp and understand, have they really taken on board the techniques covered. So Tom, I'm going to use you as a little guinea pig, but one of our most popular exercises, certainly over lockdown, has been what's on your don't do list. So often for a lot of learners, when they think about stress management, they'll think about calming techniques, you know, breathing techniques. But we really want to teach learners that actually, if you can get to the root of the problem early and plan, things will be a little easier for you. So what's on your don't do list is a really popular activity. So every exercise follows our learn, reflect, act learning format, essentially. So it encourages experiential learning. So we always start with a bit of a quiz, just to pique a little bit of interest. So the learner will get presented with this, which is relaxation and calming techniques are best for managing stress. So we start to kind of challenge some of those preconceptions. So the answer is false, that actually problem solving can be a really effective way to manage stress. The learner will then get a little bit of generic information that starts to really tee up this technique of writing a daily don't do list. So we normalise that stress is really normal, but lots of stress comes from trying to manage too many things, and this is sometimes because we have way higher expectations of ourselves than others. But actually simplifying things and focusing on the most important techniques is a great way to focus and de-stress. Once the learners had a little bit of learning, so generic information, we then move into a period of reflection where we get them to think about how they might currently be integrating that particular technique into their lives. So it really starts to encourage behaviour change at this point. There are always tips if a learner is struggling to answer the question. But in this case, before somebody writes their don't do list, they have to think about how they sometimes overstretch or take too much on. So Tom, I know you're often a guinea pig and have probably done this plenty of times. How do you sometimes overstretch or take on too much?
This is definitely a new one, actually. Gardening. I think I can tackle the ivy on the fence by myself, but actually it's a bit of a group effort, so I need to enroll the family a bit more and engage them. But I think it's quite a good idea, actually, because you have this big goal in your head and you realize actually it might be a bit much just to do by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one that always springs to me here is that I have definitely in lockdown, a real sort of tendency to feel that I have to respond instantly to every work email I get, because if I don't, people will think I'm not working. So a learner can write their notes here, and they're recorded for them as well. So emails, etc. And then once they've done that, we can start to think about what's on the don't do list. So for the next 24 hours, what's on your don't do list? Is it actually the ivy on the on the wall?
The ivy might be for the next bank holiday, but in terms of kind of day-to-day stuff, I think definitely, looking at emails, how you can reduce replying to them immediately, but also trying to think about not everything requires an immediate solution. So thinking a bit long term, not thinking too hard about what people might want from you.
Yeah. And certainly we've observed a lot of learners working through this exercise, and a lot of them actually talk about responding to people on social media instantly, or feeling they have to be plugged into that, and that can be a source of stress. So for each technique as well, there's a little star button at the top. So if a learner particularly if this really resonates with them, they can save it as one of their favorite techniques, and I'll show you where to access that shortly. So the exercise format's a really short, sharp 5-minute. They encourage experiential learning, and they're very, very action orientated. So, a learner will go on and try things. Once they've got through the course, they can access their certificate. Here's one that I've just done recently. They all work pretty much the same, but this is an example of a course certificate that I accessed just in March. So it's NCFE endorsed, and learners can also be awarded CPD points. So for those on training programs as well, it can be really valuable. Just last week, we saw somebody had put all 7 of their 7 skills certificates on LinkedIn and was sharing them, which was really lovely to see. But you can see that it's NCFE endorsed, and it's another demonstration of personal development. So that's the 7 skills of mental fitness. If a tutor was keen to promote a particular course, they could use course codes. So that's one of the features that we have available. So you can nudge through specific courses to learners. And another feature, because of our analogy with I guess, physical fitness, we also have our athlete courses, which are quite popular. So we've got Chris Griffiths here, who's about to go off to the Olympics, hopefully. He's a hockey player talking about how to handle setbacks. And then Christine Hurrigu, who's a multiple gold world champion, talking about the importance of reaching out in her mental fitness. So we use role models as a way to encourage mental fitness. Greg Bateman, a Premiership rugby player, talks about the importance of planning and preparation and how that's really important to his happiness. So we have those athlete courses there. If a learner was struggling to identify where to start with, which course to start on, or just wanted to crack on in their own time, they can also fill in their mental fitness profile, which is just a series of questions related to the past week. And then that can give a learner a nice indication of which skills might be priority areas. So my focus at this time is particularly terrible, but I get a little bit of an overview to kind of, normalise that that's okay, these things go up and down, but it then nudges me to which courses would be most appropriate for me to start working on. So the mental fitness profile is really valuable for the individual learner, but also the colleges as well can get an indication of how completion of these courses is affecting the profile of their students. And then there's a nice home screen. Something that we're really exploring more is this idea of an overarching mental fitness goal as a key intrinsic driver for learners. So mine is to try and worry less, and if I have this front of mind, it kind of motivates me more to want to go on and work for the courses. We have recommended next for learners. Really nice feature of ours is the thought for the day, which are just 1-minute videos typically that can be embedded on VLE platforms. So if you wanted to reach your entire population of learners, you can pop it on the VLE and you get a different one each day. And it's just little bits of techniques, information to improve mental fitness. And as I mentioned before, you can actually save your favourite techniques and revisit them. So in the case of the don't do list, here's some notes I've made previously, and then I can go back and do that again. So what we're seeing as well is that learners are actually starting to build their own mental fitness daily routine, almost the things that really work for them. One that I particularly like is the worry-free zone relaxing visualization. So if I'm stressed, I go in my worry-free zone and I just listen to these nice audio guides. So that is a whistle-stop tour of the Fika app. So you've had an overview of the 7 skills of mental fitness, the profile, how it works, the certificates, and then I think Tom's got a couple more things to share. So I will stop my share now.
Yeah. The next gremlin issue. Let's have a look. Let's see. Thank you for that, Fran. That was great to see. I think the other thing just to mention around the app is that it's self-serve as well as integrated within your college, so students can do it on when they're commuting to college. You can also embed it into tutorials as well, so there's a mix of both there. I've just spotted on the chat that we have quite a lot of questions, so hopefully I'll be able to answer this on this slide. But essentially, as part of Fika's NCFE partnership, we're funding one year usage to Fika for interested colleges. Fika's 7 skills of mental fitness curriculum, we've endorsed it, and it's got certificates. So these are ones that can be, as Fran mentioned before, embedded onto LinkedIn or as part of CVs. And this is accessible for all college staff and students. So we're not capping numbers. It's just purely on colleges. And if you're a college group, it's by constituent college. And as Fran mentioned before, it's all been Ofsted mapped. So you can use it with the reassurance that it's going to fit in and it's going to impress the inspectors that eventually will come round, given the disruption last year. So as part of all this, we've had a brilliant response from FE leaders across the sector. And again, touching on those key points around student engagement and then employability, Liz Bromley, CEO of Newcastle College Group, has really been a forerunner of testing this out at her group. And again, around the features around NCFE endorsed certificates and boosting that employability is really important, because at the minute, it's really hard for students to get out into the workforce. And if we're able to build that resilience for when everything opens up again, we're going to put them in a better place to start from. And there's been a lot in the chat around kind of practical solutions and around kind of specific examples of mental fitness exercises. And Chris Beach, who's assistant principal of Burton South Derbyshire College, has hit the nail on the head right here. There are lots of initiatives that are going around at the minute. This week, for example, around Mental Health Awareness Week, but we do need some tools and solutions to start improving this situation. And the Fika app is pitched in an accessible way. Just a quick note, the Fika app is available on App Store and Android Store. There'll also be a web version available later in the year. But just a quick call to action, really, that if you are interested in finding out a bit more around our partnership, the funded spots that are available, we've got a number of demos coming up in the week ahead, and you can contact me, Tom Rogerson at ncfe.org.uk, for a bit more information about how we could use this at your college. We've got around 4 minutes left, so I'll open up for a couple more Q&As, both around the offer, but also around mental fitness and the Fika app itself. So if I just double check the chat box, or if people want to unmute, please feel welcome to do so. Let me just chat. Yeah, so one question here from Debbie Walsh: does the app have a plugin feature to link to VLE platforms? So I think the app itself can be linked to within the VLE platforms, but the video thought of the day can also be, it's a URL that can be embedded in Moodle. Fran, is there anything else to add to that question there?
No, I think the VLE embedding of the thought for the day videos, but as you said before as well, we will be working on for September web access versions as well, so that it have those different routes. That's brilliant.
There's a question from Shannon: is there ability to track student progress on the app?
Yeah, Shannon, that's a really good question. A lot of our early research with learners was that they were very mindful about the type of data that we were taking from them. So at the moment, we don't offer a service where you could see exactly what individual students have done, but what you can see is, collectively as a group, and you can split them by cohorts as well. You can see which cohorts are doing what, how many certificates have been completed. But at this point, we don't track the individual students.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Fran. And then I think this is quite a good question around how it can be incorporated. But Ella Charman's asked, how might this be incorporated into a group tutorial rather than an individual?
Yeah, really, really good question. I've just started putting together taught session plans as well. So in addition to the Fika app, there will also be accompanying slide decks and session plans, so that if you wanted to do something a bit more interactive, because some of these exercises are quite interactive and they would be really great to do with the tutor groups, you could do those and then you would be able to access those on the web version. Yeah, that's brilliant.
And I think just building out of that, what Fika and NCFE have managed to do with the colleges that have signed up so far is building up this community of practice. So every other week we have, and Fika run this bi-weekly community of practice with your counterparts from other colleges to basically ask what's working well, how can they improve, what challenges around mental fitness are they facing, in order to come together on how to improve it for everyone. So far, everyone's been massively collaborative, and there's a great sense towards September when we start enrolling everyone in colleges to the Fika app, that we're putting our best foot forward. So not only are you joining, this isn't just a promotional sell or anything like that, you're joining a movement around mental fitness for the education sector, especially around colleges. But just a quick thank you from me, Tom Rogerson, and please get in touch if you have any questions. And thank you very much to Dr. Fran, Head of Psychology at Fika Community.
Thank you.